Are you a voting member of the NRA? My name is Lucretia Hughes NRA. I will never compromise my beliefs in God, family, our country, and my Second Amendment. I am running for the board of directors of the NRA, and I would appreciate your vote. Our next special guest is JR. And like I said, he ran for Congress. I went and tried to pull his name today. All I saw was left-leaning hit pieces, and I'm not fit to play that, and I don't care about that. So when I was reading it, and I went back and I started reading what Stan put up there about such a wonderful man he is. So I wasn't finna sit here and pull any articles from JR when I know JR can tell us about himself. So Dave, please take him on, and I want to introduce everybody. This is JR Majewski. Please tell me I didn't tell your last name up.
No, good job. Good enough for me.
Yeah, that was my son. That's my grandkids, and they here, and now they getting ready to eat us from house and home. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain.
Tell everybody about you, because I could give them a whole diatribe. Because Stan, did you see what he wrote about you?
I did not.
I can make you blush.
But I'm sure it was good. Stan's a good guy, so.
So go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone.
So my name is JR Majewski. I'm a military veteran. I was born and raised in Toledo, Ohio, and I served 4 years in the Air Force, and I became a Trump supporter in about 2015, 2016 before he decided to run. The short of the long story is, my dad. I grew up in a lower income home. One of the worst neighborhood in my district, one of the worst cities in the state of Ohio, and was brought up with a solid family structure, but obviously we didn't have everything, and so everything that we did have, we earned. And my dad was a Democrat. He worked for Jeep. He was a mechanic his entire life, and all he wanted out of me was to be better than he was. And so, I would after the service, I didn't know where I was at politically. I didn't know where I stood. I didn't know anything about politics. I just was focused on my career. And I watched the evolution of my father go from this Union Democrat to finding Donald Trump to telling me, this guy's going to be the next president. You better watch this guy. You're going to love him. And I had always known about Donald Trump, but I wasn't necessarily into the politics of Donald Trump. I just grew up, listening to rap and, listening to other things that were, in the social ether, and everybody loved Donald Trump. And I liked the way he carried himself, so on and so forth. And so I started to pay more attention, and then, I ended up supporting him in 2016. Obviously, I voted for him. And then the 2020 election cycle, I was, my wife and I was fortunate enough to have a really good career. I started working in the nuclear power industry, started off as a union guy, worked my way up into the leadership. And my wife and I have been married now almost 23 years. And we had the fortunate opportunity to support a veterans organization. And I ended up losing a bet, and the loss of that bet was the result of me painting the world's largest Trump emblem on my property right on Lake Erie. And Pete Hegseth saw it and invited me to Fox and Friends. I went on Fox and Friends. Within 45 minutes of being on the show, I got a phone call from President Trump, and that turned into him being a fan of mine as much as I was his. And that then got me serving as a surrogate for him during the 2020 election, and ultimately running for Congress. And I ran for Congress against the longest standing member of our Congress in our nation's history. I was on path to beat her. She was the chairwoman of the Ukrainian caucus, and I was essentially backstabbed by the Republican Party, the establishment wing of the Republican Party, because I wouldn't bow down and kiss the ring. And they launched a multi-million-dollar hit piece on me, accusing me of lying about serving in Afghanistan. And it wasn't until after the election that I had the opportunity to prove them wrong. And I did, but as you saw on the internet, history doesn't necessarily care.
Well, What did you kind of expect? You was going against the norm in the Republican Party because there is a hierarchy in the Republican Party, and when you don't toe that party line or kiss the ring, they're not going to support you. And the Republicans will do a smear campaign and help the Democrats if they don't like you. And it sounds like exactly what happened to you in Ohio. Now, with your
Yeah.
dad and you growing up as Democrats in a Democrat household, people got to remember during that time, our mothers and father, because I'm 50, it was always God, family, country.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden in 2016, 2012, that's when you started seeing a lot of Democrats or people that were supposed to vote Democrat start looking at the different policies and choosing our side. Why do you think that the Democrats went so far left and it is no longer the party of common sense?
I think it has a lot to do with just the fact that they've been so conflicted and been able to be compromised by special interests. It's the Democratic Party was always supposed to be the party of the working man and woman, and the working man and woman doesn't have a lot of money to give politically to help these campaigns, and so I think they look for other outlets for funding, and those outlets, were able to bend the narrative and get them driving towards issues that weren't necessarily resonant with folks like us, and so in order for it to become so, they had to lie. And they had to lie to sell the message. And, because the everyday American, at the end of the day, we want politicians out of our life. We don't want the government in our life. So we just want to live and worship and love our family. And the government should be something that, we don't necessarily have to pay attention to and monitor. But it's become that way. And the American people are pretty damn smart. So once we caught on to that, the gig was up, and I think that the Democratic Party didn't have a plan, and here we are today with a guy like Donald Trump who has stayed, I think, very true to his core, very true to his principles. I mean, he says the same thing on the campaign trail that he said in the 1980s on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Yes.
He says the same thing that he said sitting in front of Barbara Walters. The only difference is now he's actually the president when he said he wasn't sure he would do it. Outside of that, everything that he said has been very consistent. And I think it comes down to core principled American fundamentals. You care about your, again, God, family, country, right? And in the grand scheme of things, Donald Trump has been the type of person that has an outstanding reputation of putting the country first.
Now, with the confirmations that have been on the news for the last 3 days, and I think that's RFK, who is trying to be the Health and Human Services Director or Secretary. You got Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi is going to be CIA, the DOD.
DNI.
DNI. Okay. And then you also have Kash Patel. Now, there's a lot of one-liners out of all three of them where they're pushing back against the Democratic narratives and their lies right there in the confirmation. What do you feel about all three of them and their potentials of being confirmed?
I think all three of them will get confirmed. I think I don't personally know Tulsi Gabbard or RFK. I have good friends that know both of them personally. I personally know Kash Patel. I think he's an outstanding guy. I think he's been, like me, victim of the political machine, and I think he has a legacy of being an American that wants to serve the country, that puts the country first. And I think that the Senate is going to come to. I think they know that Kash is the right guy. He just doesn't fit their mold, and they're scared. Excuse my language.
They scared shitless.
They're scared shitless of the guy, and they should be.
You in the military, you do not. You are from the military and middle class. I don't see us biting our tongues because this mean.
He's that guy.
No, this is you right here. You ready for this? Most of us didn't start talking about politics because we wanted to. We simply wanted to be left alone, but they decided to shit on our morals and tear our country apart. They activated us, and now we're here for it. And I don't think we're going back to sleep anytime soon.
I know I'm not. I mean, I wasn't a bad guy until I ran for politics. I was a young guy that grew up in the neighborhood, and I ended up being very successful. I managed half of the nation's spent nuclear fuel, which is the most dangerous thing on earth outside of the Democratic Party. And you don't get there by being a dummy. You don't get there by being a bad person. But all of a sudden, I run for politics, and I'm this bad guy. And I put a lot on the line. I put my livelihood, my income, which I was making a hell of a lot more money in the private sector than I would in Congress, because I wouldn't cheat the stock market. And so, you're right. We made sacrifices because, and especially in my case, I saw the opportunity to leverage the relationship that I had developed with Donald Trump. I thought, based on the fact that he and I had a mutual friendship and mutual respect, that the Republican Party wouldn't dare come after me, just because of some of the circumstances. And boy, oh boy, did they spend a lot of time, fooling him. And unfortunately, it worked, and they did it at the right time. So there was no opportunity for recovery. But I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. All over again in a heartbeat. I would do it the exact same way because it was the right way.
I think you're going to be able to do it again. You don't have to run for politics, but I see you running from coast to coast. I see you doing a lot of things when it comes to the veterans. I see that happening. And when it comes to being an advocate for veterans and veterans' rights. When it comes to the political side, I just feel like your voice is too big to get slapped down or be in a chokehold because you got to toe a particular line. Now, when it comes to the Republicans, number one, they couldn't groom you. Now, if you was groomable, and you could, like you said, trade on some stocks, make a lot of money, maybe push, take a couple of envelopes underneath the table, compromise your morals and values with the Democrats to get something going, or sell out to the globalists, and I call that World Economic Forum. You could take it to the World Health Organization, NATO, or the UN. I just feel like you're stronger and more powerful, helping grassroots leaders, helping military veterans in this particular day, and also getting all of those points out there so we can make our nation better again. So when you're ready to jump back out there in the political arena, you're not having to fight against the good old boy institution that we call the Republican Party.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I mean, you're right. In my circumstances, or in my circumstance, if I chose to run in my district again, there's not a person. Look, there's not a person in the state of Ohio that could defeat me in a Republican election except for Jim Jordan. And in the right district, I'd annihilate Jim Jordan. It just depends.
But
and
I
wouldn't need a dime.
You got to DeWine, you got to DeWine. You got to deregulate that guy. Is this where Vernick Ramaswamy?
Gone. This is his last term, so he's done.
So Vernick Ramaswamy is getting ready to run for your governorship.
Yeah.
Woo! Who else up there you particularly are looking at that has thrown their hat in the ring?
I'm personal friends with Vivek, and he has my support. I talk to him a lot, and so I was one of the people that encouraged him to run. I actually, when he dropped out of the presidential primary, I went to Chicago and I spent some time with him, talking to him about running for governor, and I think he's the right guy. I don't think there's another person that should even be in the race but there will be. There's some establishment Republicans. There's some folks that, are Trumpers when it's popular to be a Trumper. And after we've gone and done all the hard work and knocked down the barriers and fought and been censored and wouldn't take no for an answer and kick people in the nuts, now these people want to come out and be brave. Well, Vivek was part of that, and I think Vivek deserves the right to run for governor. I think he speaks the right things.
Now, okay, so when it comes to the Veterans Affairs, what do you want to see what do you want to see changed? We have Doug Collins, that is the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, or has he been confirmed yet? I don't know if he's been confirmed. Has he?
I don't think he's been confirmed yet. I think he's going to be next week.
What are some particular things you want to see Trump accomplish with the veterans, for you being a Navy Air Force?
Air Force.
Air Force vet, because my son is an Air Force too. So Air Force, also, what do you want to see in the Air Force and in the military branches, but also for the veterans that are out there right now having a hard time and forgotten about?
I would like to see them really take a good look at tackling the homelessness of veterans, some of the addiction problems. I think there's an opportunity to deal with, addiction across the board. It doesn't necessarily have to, apply to veterans. I think the veteran attempts could be maybe the clearinghouse to solve it, from a nationwide perspective. But I'd like to see Donald Trump go after, veteran homelessness and getting them back into the world as they've, processed out and have transitioned, from active duty back into civilian life. I think Donald Trump is going to continue his overhaul of the Veterans Administration and getting some of these folks the treatment that they need, especially those that have PTSD. There was a time in my life where I wasn't too sure about PTSD because when I got out of the service, we didn't get to ask, we weren't asked questions. We were just sent back on our way. But seeing what some of these young men and women have seen as time has gone on and videos have been released, I think that they need some help. And I think Donald Trump's the kind of guy. And you have J.D. Vance, who's a veteran. You have Pete Hegseth, who's a vet. And you have Stu Scheller, who's, Stu was the Marine Corps colonel that stood up against the veterans, or excuse me, the generals that, failed in Afghanistan. I think the combination of good people that Donald Trump is putting in the VA and the DOD in general is going to bring back, some institution of what we would look at as our veterans infrastructure. And I think they have nowhere to go but up, in my opinion. But generally across the board, just treatment of veterans when they get out of the service, I think is the right thing to look at.
The stuff that you was running when you ran for, Congress, did any of your positions ever get fulfilled? And if it did not, or some of your ideas or policies that you wanted to see pushed through, or even seen picked up in Congress, do you feel like you have a better chance now of getting your policies or any of your ideas into Trump administration's hands?
Yeah, I mean, I was the only I was the only candidate for Congress that was talking about making America energy dominant. I think I actually said it before the president, but I'll let him take the credit. Having spent 20 years in the nuclear power industry and learning about, the opportunities that we have to harness this power and educate the public and make it so that they understand it and it's not this, scary monster that it's been, it's become because of tall tales and lies. I think that getting nuclear power back to the forefront of our energy portfolio is the right thing to do because it will make energy more affordable for everybody, not just big businesses, for everybody. Secondly, I think there's so many things that I had in mind. I think we've been talking about them for a long time, but I'm against term limits. I think term limits is a lie. I think that nobody will ever vote for term limits. I think we need to make it easier for the average man and woman to run for office. If we do that, then competition will increase, and then we can pick who the heck we want to elect. We won't let the parties do it for us. That's number one. Number two, I think if I was to give one criticism to the Trump administration, there's only one actually. It's the way that he handled the restriction and the penalties for prescription drug usage. We had a lot of young kids that were stealing a Darvocet or a Percocet or something from grandma's purse. And when they were not allowed to do that anymore because grandma couldn't get their pain medication, they turned to heroin and they turned to everything else, which ended up being fentanyl. And it created this vacuum of addiction, of a lethal levels of addiction. Look, I don't want kids using illegal substances or drugs or anything, but I would rather them stealing a pain pill from grandma and than I would them going to, the neighborhood dope dealer on a dark street that they're not familiar with and losing their lives because either they get robbed or they get, they end up overdosing on something that they don't know what the heck they're taking. So, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see some overhauls when it comes to the nuclear family. I'd like to see single fathers get fair treatment when it comes to the relationships that they have with their kids. I think what Donald Trump is doing as far as, supporting men and single fathers, for example, if a mother and father are sharing custody and the father is paying child support, then the mother can no longer claim the kids on her taxes. I think that's a great thing to do.
Wait. He suggested that?
Yeah, he absolutely did.
Oh my God, all these baby mamas is gonna be in an uproar, especially
And
I know some bitter bitches. I mean, I
yeah,
didn't mean to say
they should stay bitter,
Ooh.
because I know a lot of guys that love their kids, and just because they're a man, and they would be better parents, they can't have anything to do with their kids unless mom says so, and it's totally unfair.
Well, what
And
do you feel about if you're gonna that way? What about mandatory DNA tests? So all these Judge Judy and Jerry, or any of these paternal shows won't be on there. Man won't get tricked into signing his name if there's a mandatory, especially if the father or the mother asks for it in the hospital. It's so quick and easily to be done nowadays. It shouldn't take up to 2 weeks before you put your name or John Hancock on a birth certificate.
yeah, I think that everybody should have a right to it. As far as making it mandatory, I mean, I don't know if I would go that far, because maybe sometimes innocence is bliss, and they might be okay with not knowing, and he or she may want to be the parent just because, right? And so I would say having that as a recourse, or an opportunity for somebody to request it, they absolutely should have that right, 100%. And then I would say finally, I'd like to see some reforms on some of the folks that we see serving in prison at a young age and coming out and trying to get fit back in society, and being felons and being labeled as felons because they made a mistake at 20 years old, and they're in their mid 40s, and they're some of the best people in our country. I have a lot of friends like that. They made stupid mistakes, and now they're older, and they've been reformed, and they're the nicest people. They just can't get past that label that they carry as a felon.
Maybe
And
make it a little bit easier to expunge their records. If they
yeah,
have already, did the money grab, they paid their probation, they have done everything their sentences told them to do. They waited because there's still going to be a grace period after completing everything to make sure you don't redo it. But I had to get my record expunged. I know a lot of felons, and a lot of them, some of the stuff that we talk about is getting their rights back completely,
yeah.
especially after they've already completed everything. I say yes. I truly
I
believe
think
yes.
if you serve your time and you pay your dues, you don't get in trouble. After 10 years, or whatever the timeline is, your record should automatically be expunged. You shouldn't have to fill out any paperwork. The government can tell you when your driver's license is going to expire. Why can't they tell you when, or why can't they automate the process of getting your record expunged? If that's the law, let's make it beneficial to the American taxpayer, not the government bureaucracy. So, that's the kind of stuff that I talked about on the campaign trail that scared the shit out of these guys, because they're not
It's
thinking
common
like me.
sense. It's common sense, and it's street smart. And you giving a person an opportunity to change their life around because they messed up in their younger years, and now they know. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm
Now
gonna
look,
give
these are
you.
not like my. I spent a lot of time when I decided I was going to run for office. I contacted high school buddies that I hadn't talked to in a couple of years, and I said, "Hey, let's go sit down for a couple hours. I want to talk to you guys. I want to know where you're at. What are your concerns?" I gathered a lot of information from people that brought things to light that I was somewhat oblivious to, and I it's because I really, really cared about what I was doing. I wasn't just, running for office to try to be popular or something like that. I really, really wanted to make a difference, and I still do. It'll be in a different light, probably. I don't know. I might run for office again. I might run this cycle. Who knows?
I will help. Stan will help. The Veterans for America First will help. We will get you out there as much because there's a lot of people that watches from Ohio. That's probably watching right now on X. And I'm just gonna give you the last words because we get ready to. Show us in at 7, but you gotta come back. Can you come back? Cause
Yeah, I can come back. I can come
you
back.
and the Admiral. I don't know what Stan think we could talk about in 25, 30 minutes. I mean, cause y'all are like a wealth of knowledge. And the next time, the way we just throw out topics and jump from topic to topic, bring a couple. And if you just want to do an hour, be like, girl, can I come? This is very important. Can I come on the show?
Yeah, we can do an hour. I can do that.
Now that you know it's just laid back, get in the chat rooms because there was a bunch of people, a couple of people on D Live asked questions, on X asked you questions, and on Rumble. So when you're over on your screen and you're in the chat room, you can be addressing these people because the show is interactive. So can you tell everybody where to find you, and then let Stan know when you want to come back on so we can schedule you that
Sure.
too.
You can find me on X, on Truth Social, on Twitter, or not Twitter, but on Instagram, on Facebook, all the great spots on. So I'm even starting shit on TikTok for the president. I've been banned about 6 times. I've had nearly 1 million followers, and every time I get banned, it's because I did something pro-Trump. But it's pretty simple. It's always at JR Majewski or official JR Majewski or something like that. Pretty easy to find, and you can always hear me putting out an America First message and supporting the rights of we the people.
Thank you so much, JR. And I'm going to sing these people out. And please just come on anytime you get ready or want to and you got an interested topic. This is a 2-hour show, so I know you can hang in there and
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
jump from topic to topic to topic and not miss a beat.
Absolutely. I
Thank
try my
you.
best.
You have a blessed weekend.
You too.
All right.
Don't give them too much grief.
Oh, that's a guaranteed. It will happen. It will happen.
That's right.
All right, then.
All right. God bless you.
God bless you. So, everybody, as y'all saw, grandkids are in town. Are you a voting member of the NRA? My name is Lucretia Hughes NRA. I will never compromise my beliefs in God, family, our country, and my Second Amendment. I am running for the board of directors of the NRA, and I would appreciate your vote.